with the American Jewish Committee in what is the first of our conversation series, our Parent Conversation series. This is one of 4 events that are designed to push us out of our comfort zone just a little bit, whether you're politically on the left or on the right. And one of the architects of this conversation series is here with us. So I'd like to welcome Stephanie Hammer of the Barrett family up to introduce a little bit more.
Where an audience member would take advantage of the session to make a speech of their own. So, to honor the memory of Peter and Charlotte, we ask that if you ask a question during the Q&A, that it really is a question. Finally, we'd like to say a big thank you to Rabbis Jonathan and Sarah for working with our family to initiate an event at our synagogue, which we hope will help foster true dialogue, true mutual enlightenment and peace.
My pleasure to welcome Julie Bram up to the Bima. Julie is not only one of the most active volunteers with AJC in a number of organizations around the city, I'm also very lucky to call her my mentor. Julie.
Agaya, who is a wonderful friend to the Los Angeles Jewish community. But more about that in a moment, because some of you may not know what the American Jewish Committee does. And I want to correct that tonight. Founded in 1906, many call the AJC the State Department of the Jewish people. Staff and lay leaders alike work tirelessly at home and abroad, advocating for Israel and the Jewish people, while also promoting human rights for all. We have 10 global posts throughout Europe, Asia, and South America, and 22 offices across the United States. Foreign leaders on behalf of the Jewish people. I literally pinch myself because I can hardly believe I get to do this work. To date, we have traveled with AJC to the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Oman, Tunisia, Morocco, Poland, and Mexico. During each trip, we met with many high-level government officials. Never in my wildest dreams did I think I would be invited to the royal palace in Morocco to meet with the Muslim president who would tell us that he wished the Moroccan Jews would return and that they would always be welcome in his country. This is just one small example of the kind of access that AJC has around the world.
Beautiful, and I also applaud your interfaith efforts. It's extremely important, especially in these times that we are having around the world. And also I'd like to thank the AJC for co-hosting this gathering. AJC, as rightly mentioned, has been a dear friend of Azerbaijan for many, many decades. Every year, the executive director of AJC, Mr. David Harris, is taking a large delegation from the United States to Azerbaijan. Since 2008, it's become an annual tradition, and some of the members were from California over the years also. And David Harris was awarded by our president the Friendship Order of Azerbaijan, which is given to foreign nationals. It's the highest order we have for foreign nationals. So it's been a deeply meaningful relationship, and we're grateful for that. Thank you very much. Interesting habit of calling the nations they would conquer with the names that were familiar to them. So they called the territory of Georgia, present-day Georgia, in the Caucasus, Iberia. So no relationship, of course. So that Caucasian Albania became one of the earliest Christian nations. That's why one of the oldest churches in the world are in Azerbaijan, dating back to the 1st century. Even one of the apostles of Jesus actually came to Azerbaijan, Bartholomew, and he was buried in Baku, actually. So some of his remnants are at the Russian Orthodox Cathedral Church. But before that, Azerbaijan was one of the centers of Zoroastrianism, fire worship. We managed to establish the first secular democracy in the Muslim world in 1918, after the collapse of the Russian Empire. And that republic was also the first in the Muslim world to grant the voting right to women. So we had these very progressive traditions of secularism, of course, but secularism at the same time with respect to religious freedoms. When the Soviets came, they demolished lots of mosques, lots of synagogues and churches, some of them extremely beautiful. And when I look at these pictures from 1930s, 20s, you really see how beautiful our cities would look with those places of worship that were demolished under Stalin specifically during the purges. 2,500 years ago, after the destruction of the first temple, to some other accounts, 2,000 years ago, in the first century, after the destruction of the second temple. So they came through Babylon and Iran to Azerbaijan. So they lived for a while in Iran and then went to Azerbaijan to the north. Very happy to see your staff, one member. Yes.
Everybody, that's Yael in the back. She struck up a really wonderful conversation at the beginning.
Exactly. Because the Jews came to Azerbaijan, but also went to the North Caucasus, which is today part of the Russian Federation, and the Dagestan in the North Caucasus has a large mountainous Jewish community as well. So they speak the same language, Yughuri as well, which is an old dialect of Farsi, but it's infused with Hebrew, Russian, Azerbaijani, so it's a unique language, one of the oldest languages spoken by Jews in the world. So they lived on this soil peacefully for thousands of years, and it's one of the few places on earth where Jews have not faced pogroms, persecutions, discrimination. There's a city, Guba, and in the 18th century, something very interesting happened. The Muslim Azerbaijani ruler of this region told to the Jews who were back then living in the mountainous areas, that hence the name mountainous Jews, he said, I'm going to give you an area which is across the river from my city, and you can build your own town here, and you'll be under my protection. So that's what happened. In the beginning of the 18th century, this town was built. The Jews came there at the foothills of the mountain, of the Caucasus Mountains, built this town, which was called Jewish Town. In the 18th century, we got a large group of Ashkenazi Jews from Europe, but primarily during the Second World War, a huge migration of European Jews came to Azerbaijan, primarily from Russia, Ukraine, and Belarus. When the Nazis occupied those areas in Western Russia, Belarus, and Ukraine, Jews escaped, and the best place for them to go was Azerbaijan, because they knew that Jews would be treated very 20% of our lands, and expelled around 800,000 people from these lands, coupled with 250,000 expelled from Armenia itself. 1 million Azerbaijanis became refugees in their own country. So they had to live in very substandard conditions in tent camps until Azerbaijani government got funds and because of oil contract, etc., to build normal settlements for them. That they have all been relevant. But for a decade they had to suffer from that. Just because Armenia wanted to expand and enlarge the size of its territory. Of course, a lot of people don't know about it in the West, but this is a huge one of the human tragedies that took place there. So that President Rivlin, during his speech at the UN General Assembly, mentioned one specific massacre that was committed against Azerbaijani civilians in the town called Khojaly of the Karabakh region, which is under occupation, where Armenian troops massacred over 600 Azerbaijanis, including 300 children, women, and elderly. So he mentioned that in the context of the world not learning much from Holocaust. So there was a commemoration of Holocaust at the UN General Assembly. So saying, did we learn from that? Look what happened in Khojaly, look what happened in Srebrenica and other places.
With that, Consul General Gaia, thank you so much for your time. And thank all of you for giving us
past your Thursday night to come and join us for this conversation. Please join us for the dessert reception, and please look all over those materials from the Consulate General, from AJC, from Temple Emmanuel. We hope to see you.
So before I attended this event, it would have been difficult for me to pick out Azerbaijan on the map, but much less know that it is a new democracy. And given its location, I did not realize how successful Azerbaijan has been at navigating such a difficult geopolitical situation.
My name is Dr. Nancy Lee. I'm a clinical psychologist living in Los Angeles, California, and I just attended quite an impressive talk by the Consul General. And one of the things that I was particularly impressed and delighted to hear is how evolved Azerbaijan is. Excuse my pronunciation, but how evolved the country is and forward thinking in terms of the rights of women and women's role in society. I was especially impressed to hear that you've got us beat in terms of how many women have earned doctorates degrees. So I think that's fantastic. So I commend the Consul General and the country. Just even hearing about also all the diplomacy really is very heartwarming, and I hope to visit soon. So thank you.
My name is Eric Ryder. I'm most impressed with the diversity of the country. I've known about Azerbaijan for many years, but over the last year I have studied and understood how you have a diplomatic relationship with your neighbors in a very difficult area of the world. And it's very impressive to be able to have those kind of relations and have the kind of resources that you have, and to be able to look forward to the future. That's what I've learned, and that's what I like.
Hi, my name is Sandy Cyrus. It was a very informative and interesting discussion, and I think what I was most struck by is a country where there's 95% Muslim, and everybody is able to find a way to live together and live in peace, and also that the Jewish population is welcomed in the country and has been for thousands of years. Thank you.
I learned many things about Azerbaijan, but what sticks out for me is the ancient quality of the communities here, the fact that some of the oldest Christian churches in the world are in Azerbaijan, and that the Jewish community, the first Jewish community that came to Azerbaijan, reputedly came after the fall of the first temple. I didn't know that. And I was also really fascinated to learn and hear the story about Sunni and Shia Muslims praying together in the mosque. That was a beautiful image that I find personally very inspiring.